Hi guys, Teresa with Sippie Couture. We're jumping straight in with our Mardi Gras design that a few of you have been requesting. It's a peekaboo design. It's a lot of fun. Has a few different layers to it, so I'll do my best to keep it on track and not completely long like I tend to do. It's gonna be the queen of like long tutorials or something. It's tough. All right, so I'm kind of blotchy. I'm not quite doing the swirl look. I have a bit of a swirl going, but I like to break it up with paint because since it is a peekaboo, I want to be able to see every color. So I kind of get a rough draft down and then I go in and I see where it needs it. I don't have any green right here, so I'm going to add a little green. And this is just a guide to where I'm going to drop my glitter. Green's right there. I'll put a few drops right there. Brighten that purple. It needs a yellow. All right, look how messy that came out. It's great, isn't it? All right, so we're gonna let this dry because I cannot go straight on with epoxy for that right there because it will really smudge everywhere. So we'll leave this outside, get it to dry up, and then we'll go straight on with glitter. All right, so we're doing this epoxy method and we're gonna be fairly generous with the epoxy. I like to get a nice layer on there because we are using purple, green, and I always go for a yellow gold. I know the saying's purple, green, and gold, but when I see it, I don't know, I see more of a yellow gold. So we're going yellows and a few golds to kind of bring that color through. Like I said, I'm putting this kind of thick because with all these glitters that I'm using, I want it to be a nice, healthy layer so that the glitters will soak in. Oh, get that out of there. So that the glitters will soak in and I won't have to fight so much with sanding in between steps. With this epoxy, this speed dry epoxy that I'm using, it goes on fairly thick, so I'm able to get a really good coat, even over chunky glitters. If I'm using a different epoxy, or if my layers are somewhat thin, then this will have to be 3 coats of epoxy before I can go on with the stencil for the next step. So I have this epoxy on. What I'm doing is I'm hitting it with heat to kind of get it to move around a little. I want to make sure that every part of this cup is really coated and I don't have any spots that I'm missing. And my bottom's a little rough. Right here. The heat gun will make your epoxy move. The torch will pop your bubbles. There's times where both will do both, but that's kind of how I use each tool. All right, so that coat's on there and we're going straight in with glitters. I like starting with my purples, just have it, and it helps keep my yellow bright towards the end. So the first one I'm going in with, and like I said, these are all Mr. Nola's glitter. This is Purple Haze. And I have my paint down just kind of as a rough draft. When I'm laying these glitters, if I see a spot that will need a little more color, a little more purple or yellow or green, I'll go ahead and drop that and it doesn't quite matter. My big thing is that I want to keep the yellow really on that yellow because if not, the yellow is not going to pop off as if it was on the purple. You know, the glitter won't be as vibrant as if the yellow glitter was on the yellow paint. I don't know why that's tough for me to say right now. All right, so I have the purple down. We're gonna put this aside. And we're going with Purple Monkey. Normally I like doing the thicker first and going thicker to thin with my glitters, but I find that with this design, whenever I do the chunky glitters first, I kind of have too much space in between, and then when I go to lay, you know, like I have gaps in between my glitter, and then whenever I go to lay the thin ones, if I lay the thin ones on top of the chunky, since I'm using a healthy amount of epoxy so it can soak in, then that thin epoxy will take over the chunky bits and you won't be able to see it so much. So I do kind of a mix of both. I have this down, I have the thin one first to give me that solid, you know, that heavy, not heavy, but that depth, darker purple background. And then I drop this chunky on top. And then we're going to jump into greens. For the green, I have, the first one I'm using is the Birthstone series by Mr. Nola. It's emerald. Get this paper clean. And I'm going to dump a little out first on my paper because a lot of that chunky likes to sit on the top, and I want to get the good bits that are all in the glitter. I don't just want the chunky. So I'm going to line all around the purple with this. Make sure I hit my spots of green. And also make sure that I'm not leaving too many spaces where my gold is just going to be sitting by itself. I want all of my colors to blend the whole way through. All right, that's all I'll do of this color right now, and then we can come back to it. All right, I'm grabbing Muffaletta, and I'm using that for a little depth because of the color. It's has a different green, sorry, a different kind of green to it. It's a good darker one. I really like it. And then we're going to jump over to Jefferson. Jefferson has more of a solid, whoa, no, I just got stuck to my paper, my cup. Has more of a matte look to it, but still the color of that glitter, it pops green, and it's super, it's gonna, I don't know, I'm not explaining it. It's gonna pop off really nice. Just the contrast of colors will be exactly what we need. It'll be great. So put a little of that down, and then we're gonna start with our yellows and golds. Moon Pie, HAB, Golden Lantern is what I use for this. We're going to start with Moon Pie. Do the same thing. Make sure my paper is super clean for this. I'm going to drop that down. The thing that I like about using Moon Pie next to this green is that it will shift from yellow to green in certain angles, and it's just really good for having kind of a softer blend right against that green. It really works out nice. So I'm getting this one down really on the bright spots of yellow. We're gonna worry about that part right there that doesn't have any yellow in a minute. We'll get to that. And then HAB. You know what? Let's do Golden Lantern. Where is it? We're gonna do Golden Lantern real quick. Try to fill in some of that spot. Get that chunky to stick. And I kind of drop it in between colors. Kind of help tie the whole design in. Wait a minute and see where else needs it. A little gold right there wouldn't hurt. Bring some more right here. All right. Knock this off. And then we're going to go in with HAB. I know I'm going through this pretty quick, so I'll make sure everything is listed. And I'll have a link also for where you can get all these glitters at Mr. Nola's in the description section. And you can see, like, even though I'm putting this on last, I love this glitter. You know, usually I'm not a fan of the ones that are this thick, but I don't know, it really gives a color that I obsess over. I love it. Not a yellow person, but I don't know, I really, really like the way this pulls color. All right, so that's all we're gonna do of that, and then I'll show you this next part. So what I did is usually as things fall, once I get towards a little more of the mixing, I have cups that start to collect over time, like little dump cups. I collect my dump cups in colors. That way for this design, I can go in, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to touch up wherever they have spots that will need it. So like this purple, I'm gonna follow this purple edge, and I'm gonna make sure this goes down to the bottom. That way those areas are filled in. One of the things that I do is that I don't just drop it on the bottom, I extend it up. That way it blends that area a little nicer. It doesn't look like you were just trying to make up for, you know, a spot that doesn't have glitter and just desperately dumped a random color on there. Because there are different colors mixed in here already. So I dump it a little on that purple and then I extend it in. The other good thing is that this is kind of the glitter that has collected in here from a few other cups that I did is like a thin, super thin glitter for the most part. Other colors are mixed in, other glitters are mixed in, but it's fairly thin, so it'll give, whoa, thank God that was closed. Goodness. So it'll give coverage and really fill in those gaps. Oh my goodness, I just knocked Muffaletta down. I'm not even gonna specify whether I have or have never done that again, but I will knock on wood that it wouldn't happen. All right, so same thing, touching up those ends. Make sure you drop it down a little and then jump down here. I clean up these ends at the bottom with the cup edging tool from Wicked Shimmer, and I get such a nice clean line. For that step, you want to do it after your first coat of epoxy that covers the glitter. If you wait too much longer after that, you're going to be battling, you know, layers of glitter. When I tell you it's not fun, you will want to cry. There are times where my husband is in the house from doing something and he'll cover that part for me. He'll cut the bottoms off once I forget for too much. Or if I leave a cup like for the weekend and the epoxy really sets, it's tough to come back from. I'll smush that in real quick. All right, so check my ends. Need a thinner glitter. So for this, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to grab Moon Pie Junior to help fill in that. Give me a second. All right, I have Moon Pie Junior. I'm going to use this on the ends just to double check and try to get in between some of these gaps that the Moon Pie that I used before, it's really good. It's super pretty, but the way that it has the color, the way that the glitter is made, I don't know how to describe this. Some parts of it, it does almost come across translucent. Ugh, couldn't get that word out. So I want to make sure that these ends aren't going to peek through anything. All right, and that's it for that step. Now this next step, depending on how much epoxy you use, you might want to wait a little bit to do it, but I'm going to do it right now. I take my parchment paper and I lay the glitter down. I use a good bit of epoxy, so I definitely want to be careful that the epoxy that kind of soaked through the glitter won't get stuck to the parchment paper and rip off that glitter. It is possible to do, but if that happens, it's really not that big of a deal. All you'll have to do is just drop a little more glitter in that section. So make sure everything is laid down super nice. And then we have one more glitter that we're going to put on here. This is Mardi Gras Mombo, and it's just these dots, these super fun Mardi Gras dots. I drop this through here. Whenever the next step happens of putting the decals down so we can do the peekaboo, it's so cool. It comes out really cute to see, you know, one of these spots kind of poking through. It gives it a really fun look. So almost like confetti thrown in there. So I drop that down. Definitely no certain placement on this. Doesn't have to be a ton. But like I said, it just does look really fun when it's poking through. Knock off as much as we can. We're going to lay this down again. So what I do is that all this beautiful glitter that is falling onto my parchment paper, I set my parchment paper aside, let that kind of cure and dry, and then I keep all this. I'll shake off my parchment paper, all of this will fall off, and I can reuse it. It won't be tacky, it won't be messed up from the epoxy. I'll put it in one of these little dump cups and I'll mix it up, and then when I go to dump glitter some other point, they'll kind of get stuck in there. So that stuff is not wasted, thank goodness. So that's it for this step. We're gonna let this sit. Like I said, we're using speed dry, so we just have 2 hours. We'll let this sit, come back to it, take it outside. I'll hit it with clear spray paint just to help seal this glitter. The epoxy will take a lot better with a little layer of clear spray paint on there. It's Rust-Oleum 2x clear gloss sealer. We'll do that to help the epoxy get on there better, and it'll give great coverage to this chunky glitter, and we'll need less steps. So that's coming up next. Okay, so our tumblers, it's been 2 hours. They are cured to where I can touch them and nothing sticky is on there. So we're going to hit it super quick with some 2x clear gloss sealer. This step doesn't have to happen. I do it just because it makes it a lot easier when you go to put the epoxy over chunky glitter. I like when it doesn't move, it stays put, and I can kind of get it exactly how I want it without, hopefully without too many layers. So epoxy step is next. We're coming in with our first coat of speed dry epoxy. This is a fast setting epoxy. It goes on in a nice healthy layer. Hopefully that will help us cut down on some of the layers we have to put before we continue on to the next step, which would be decals. There's a chance this might end up taking 3 layers of epoxy before I can do that next step. We're gonna have to play it by ear. Actually, this is laying so flat, I'm only gonna need 2 coats. So the plan will be to let this sit and cure. I'll come back to it. I have a few other things to do. You can come back to this in 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. I have to get some other stuff done, so I'll probably come back to it maybe 3 or 4. Take it, sand it up, clean my edges, trim the bottom, sand where I can without messing up any glitter, and then we'll do another layer of epoxy, because you have to do another layer of epoxy before we do the decal and paint, because we will be wiping away the paint to create the geode. And if you have a sanded layer of epoxy, when you go to spray paint, your epoxy is going to get stuck. I'm sorry, your spray paint will get stuck in the sanded layers of epoxy and like those scratches, and it will show. It will show really, really bad, and there is no coming back from that. You can't save it. You're just kind of in trouble. You'd have to really sand it all out and start over. I've made the mistake. It was not fun. So I have this down. I'm going to get my heat gun to help spread it on the second one, because I'm kind of running out a little. Make sure we can spread it out. This one will most likely need another coat before, 2 more coats before I go with my decal. So we'll help spread it out. I don't know if you could see the bubbles that were in that cup when it was sitting as I was pouring it, but there are no bubbles in my epoxy right now. Absolutely love it. Make sure we have all around the edges. I'm using the heat to just help thin out the epoxy so I can spread it a little easier, making sure I'm coating every part of the glitter. Actually, now that this is moving around, I don't even know if this one will need 3 coats before decal and paint. It won't. See, laying the glitter flat with the parchment paper and then sealing it, it just helps this process so much. It helps the epoxy go on smoother. It helps get everything laying nice and flat so you can have that smooth coat. So we'll get around the edges. Use my finger to wipe it off the top. I don't see any bubbles, but peace of mind. There's nothing to pop. This is awesome. I swear I'm obsessed. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all my epoxy, but I am obsessed with this stuff. All right, this is it. Let this sit for a few hours. We'll come back to it. I'll show you how I clean it up, then we'll continue on. This has been spinning for a few hours with the speed dry, and I can touch it. It's not sticky. I mean, it's perfect. So I'm going to show you guys real quick what I do to clean up the top and bottom of this. And while I'm at it, I'll show you how I do my sticker for my logo. This is a cup edging tool from Wicked Shimmer. I have it down to a setting that has a black piece but not the washer. I put the knife in it just to kind of stabilize it. And this is how I trim up the bottom of my cups. I just take this and I push it straight along. I go around a few times to make sure it's cut off pretty good. And like I said, this is still after just the first coat of epoxy covering the glitter. This is the best time to do this because if you wait any more and that, it's really set. If it's too thick or if the epoxy is really set, getting this off right here will be a pain in the butt. So I went all the way around. Now I'm just taking my knife and I'm rubbing it along that edge and helping it pop off a little. Sometimes if you take your knife and if you go that way, you can easily pull it off. But I feel like this is easier for right now. So this is what I'm doing. I learned a very, very valuable lesson the other day. I was trimming off the bottom of my cup, and instead of running it around the cup edging tool first, I took my my craft knife that wasn't sharp and I just trimmed along the edges like that. And when I did, I caught a chunk of glitter and I ripped off a piece of the good part of the cup where the glitter was. So note to self, run your cup edging tool along it first, clean up whatever bits you have, you know, get a clean line that way. Whenever you do go to clean it up like this, it doesn't rip off that glitter. That was not fun. It was not a fun lesson to learn. All right, so there we go, a really clean bottom. I'm gonna take some acetone and I'm gonna continue. Whew, sick of me. And I'm just gonna clean out the bottom real quick. Sorry for how I'm holding this, guys. I don't know how to work without doing this. So weird. All right, so we're gonna keep going around, make sure it's clean. I don't do the bottom of my cups anymore. I got pretty tired of fighting with it not being level. So now this is all I do. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, let's get to the top. Kind of running the same risk with having the epoxy pop off too much, but there isn't that much along this rim. So I'm just gonna do that for me. Now, two ways that I do this. If I'm outside my garage on a normal day, I will use my, what is it called? My little rotary tool with the Dremel, and I'll go around the top, and that's super, super easy, a lot faster, but my husband's out there cutting wood, and it is noisy, so we're gonna do this with this really nasty old piece of paper that I probably should have replaced for this step. But what we'll do, if you're using it like this for the sandpaper, I'm not bending my hand all the way down. I'm just kind of going along the edge, just enough to kind of loosen the glitter and trim it back a little. Another thing you can do if you don't want to do that is use a sanding sponge. This is 60 grit, and just rub it along that way, and that will still pull the glitter off the lip of the cup, just enough to give you a really, really good seal when you come back with your next set of epoxy. While I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way around, make sure I have all those big rough bumps. Like I said, this is only after one coat of epoxy. Normally I would not do this. I would put 2 coats over this, but that speed dry really did a great job at getting on there thick, covering all the glitter. I mean, I'm doing this and I'm not feeling any big chunks that I'm running over, which has me super, super excited because I don't like having a lot of epoxy on it. So there we go. All right, that makes me happy. Need to wipe it off. Before I do any type of the next coat of epoxy, what I do is I bring it to my sink and I use Dawn detergent and I wipe it down with that. I like getting it really clean with that instead of just alcohol. That popped off easy. So this is how I do the bottom of the cup. I just take off the little metal piece. They're usually a lot harder than that to take off. Just throw that away. But I don't know, it just popped off that time. So for my logo, I clean the bottom really good. Uh-oh. I was gonna have to ring. Sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna set my, it's one of my kids going through my computer. So I put my sticker right in the middle, and then I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun. What I'm doing is just kind of softening this up so I can push it down into that hole. Right down the middle. And there we go, that logo's in there. My hand, I've been fooling with epoxy and paint the whole day. My hands are so sticky. All right, so now I have this UV glitter. I got this from Mr. Nola's Glitter. This is my favorite UV glitter to use. It cures super, super quick. I just set it outside in the sun and it works real good. I have my lamp, I'll put it on that for now. But I just run this around here. Kind of get it in there fairly neat. And there we go. So now I can just finish off this design. The bottom is done. I'm not going to do anything else other than that. That way, if they drop it, they hit it on the corner, it's the chance of it cracking anything is, I mean, you got to hit it at a pretty decent spot. But I haven't had any that happen yet. Not since I've been doing the bottoms. Please don't jinx myself. But this is all I do. So that's the bottom of my cup. That's how it's cleaned up. I'm going to get that cured. I'm going to wash this cup with Dawn detergent onto a second coat and then decal and paints. So we're doing our decal now. I use this Duck brand shelf liner. I believe I got it from Walmart. You could probably find it at Target also. I'm not quite sure. And I know that I saw it on Amazon at some point. But I get this and it's printed on the outside. Doesn't really matter about this part. Just makes it easier to see whenever you're doing peekaboos. And I transfer everything with clear contact paper. It's just cheaper. The good thing about this right here, about this Duck brand shelf liner, is that it doesn't leave any type of residue on your tumbler. It comes up really nice for this. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to find a spot that I want this to go, and I want it to have every color of the purple, green, and gold. I want the name to do the same thing. So if I could find a spot that kind of has a mix of both on each side, that'd be perfect. So this does have my gold that's going across. This side has a lot more color to it, so I'm using this big side for the decal. I went ahead and weeded this ahead of time. This is a 30-ounce skinny, so this is cut to 7.341. And the width is 4.2. So I need to stand it up to do this part, sorry guys. We're gonna have it on here, kind of line it up. Just make sure for the most part that the lines are, that the big words are straight. The good thing about this design is that since the words are kind of sideways and, how do you say it, like silly or fun on there, it doesn't have to be completely straight, because I don't really think any of the words are all that straight, except for street. But everything else is straight? Yeah, street is straight. But everything else is kind of off on angles, so it doesn't quite matter all that much. So I have this on here. I'm going to make sure it stays pretty good. I can see right here where it didn't lay flat, so I'll lay that flat after I take the transfer tape up. One of the things that when you're weeding this design is that you want to be careful and make sure you have all of your letters. You didn't miss any little decorations or dots. Nothing got stuck to your paper when you were weeding it and you threw it away. Because if you were missing like part of the W in we or one of the letters or something, it would be really hard to add that on later. You'd have to really take your time and draw it out, because we are putting a layer of paint on this. So everything's down, it's laying flat. It's a lot easier to do this part on straight tumblers than curved, because for the curves you have to really, you know, make sure everything lays down with that. Make sure it's on there nice, because we are going to do that layer of paint and we don't want the paint to get under it. If it does, it's not a big deal. I'll show you how to clean that up, but the less work we can do, the better. So for the name on the back, I always like to go kind of diagonal. cut this real quick, make it a little easier on myself. I always like to go a little diagonal on the back. I don't know why. I like the way it looks, really like the way it looks. And besides that, well, I guess I know why I do it. Whenever we're doing our geode, if I did this, I would have to wipe off more paint, slightly more paint. So, I don't know, I like doing it sideways because I can get a little more fun with how I'm doing these lines. So what I'm looking at in this part is I'm checking my distance where the S is versus the distance where the end letter, that E, is on the top. If I put it too far over, you'll have too much of a gap on this side, which isn't a big deal because you can play it off with the paint and the geode lines that will be rubbing through there. But I do like it when it's slightly more even. So we have this anchored down right where we want it. That looks perfect to me. We're going to keep this line down just as a base of making it easier. Fold it back, peel off the name, and then just lay it down. The name is cut to 6.7. I probably could have gone a bit bigger than that, but I do like my geode to kind of drop down. And the width is 2.3. So we have this down. The font for this is, how do I say it? Let me say. Oh gosh, y'all, I don't know how to say this word. Barachel, B-A-R-A-C-H-I-E-L. I'll list it. I'll list it in the comment, and this may be something from DeFont. If not, a lot of my Creative Fabrica has some font packages that I pick out. So there we go. That's the decal part. Let's get with paint and then really get to work. For the paint for this, I want to do quick light sprays. Gotta figure out which way the wind is blowing on me today. I'm going to do quick light sprays. You don't want it too thick because that is going to make rubbing the paint off. Oh my goodness, is anything even getting on the cuff? It's going to make rubbing the paint off really annoying if you put, you know, super, super heavy paint. So we're going to get a light coat on here if the paint wants to catch my cup today. I mean, who knows? Goodness, this is stupid. All right, I need a paint booth. Y'all, this is hilarious. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's about what I can figure out with the paint for right now. We're going to let this dry. I'm probably going to hit it with the heat gun to kind of encourage it a little more. And then we'll come out and give it another coat and see where we are with that. All right, one more super quick coat. Everything is where it needs to be, and I'm happy with this coverage because I'm going to do a layer of mica on here with Tack-it. One of the things, and look how good this coat is. This is only 2 coats of epoxy. That's what I really, really love about it, is that it gives such a good coverage. The little spots right there, if we see any little pokes of glitter, we will make that intentionally part of the design and take it out. That way you don't see those flaws. Definitely take this out. That way you don't see those little flaws through the white paint. So, I don't know, it's perfect. Definitely with this, make sure you get in between all of the letters right here. You're not going to want to see any of the glitter through here because that design is really what makes it pop. The peekaboo is what makes it pop. The other thing is that when you're weeding some of these designs, be super, super careful that like a dot didn't move on you, or like, you know, the inside of like the D or the inside of the R didn't get stuck to this part of the design. Because if it's on there and if you go to spray paint around it, you'll have that dot. So just double check your design, make sure everything is lifted really, really good before you spray paint. If it is on there and you notice when you go spray paint, just pop it off and hit it with more spray paint and it'll cover it up pretty great. So now this is the part that I absolutely love. I really feel like it gives this end result to the color in the tumbler just a really pretty shine. You don't have to do this step. I definitely do, just because the way that it wipes away and once that last coat of epoxy hits it, it's just so pretty. So I'm throwing down some Tack-it, and we're going to use mica powders with Tack-it. I had this idea when I did the tumbler one time, and I was doing this Mardi Gras design, and as I was wiping the paint away, I was like, man, I feel like that white is just so plain. Like it needed, I don't know, it needed something else. And instead of like going and trying to do any type of glitter spray paint over it, and I didn't want to add a little shimmer to the epoxy, I wanted that white to just be different. And it kind of had me thinking like when I was little for Mardi Gras parades, because I'm from New Orleans, Mardi Gras parades when we were little, that the thing, like, there's so many beads now. Like, everyone has all these fancy beads. But when I was little, there weren't all these fancy beads. They had these really, I don't know, trashy, tiny ones that, like, snapped together. And then there were pearls. And everybody wanted the pearls, or at least I wanted the freaking pearls. So when I thought about the mica idea and I tried it on a little part, it gave that pearl, like, it gave that pearl look, which was so, so perfect, because for me, it kind of represents, you know, the Mardi Gras pearls that were pretty coveted for me growing up. And now, I'm not a fan of Mardi Gras beads. After so many years of doing that, they have a smell to them, and then you'd be out at the Mardi Gras parade and it would start raining, and then the beads will stain your neck. Not trying to talk anybody out of Mardi Gras. Sorry about that part, I guess. But I don't know, just got different. So I put that layer of Tack-it down, and I really want to make sure, I changed my paintbrush just because I stuck that one in water before I said about this part. I'm really making sure that Tack-it is in all of these letters. So wipe it sideways, wipe it up and down, go diagonal, whatever you have to do to make sure it's all the way in there, because we want this really tacky. So put that up. And I'm going to hit this with the heat gun just to speed up some of that drying. Oh, this wouldn't be a good idea. Let's cover that first. All right, so this next part is a mess, a complete mess, but this is how I do it. I really think it looks nice. Please don't come after me, because I'm not wearing a mask. But I take my mica, and this is just from Alumilite, and it's just the is it even called mica? What are they calling this? They are calling this pearlescent powder. Nola's, if you're getting all the other supplies there, get your micas too. They have a few really good packs of micas where you can get like some sample colors. Well, not really samples, because it's a pretty big bag and they last forever. But you can get a ton of different colors. It's a great price. And it'll have, I think there's actually one big pearl pack available that you can get. All right. And I might end up being quiet on this part because I don't really need this completely in my lungs. Usually I hold my breath through this part. But you know, it would be easier to wear a mask, but I don't know. I don't. So one of the things that I can tell a difference from the time that like I tap this on here versus where you really put it on heavy and wipe it. So I kind of sprinkle it close together and then really wipe it in. This brush actually came with a, who sent it to me? Something I got. It was in a subscription box, and they sent these paint brushes that you could fill up the bottom of them. And I'm sorry whoever sent that in a pack, but I never got a chance to glittering the inside of the holder. I just took it off and used it because I was desperate one day. So I'm just taking that and I'm rubbing it in. You want to make sure you have around the wording really good, that it's in all the spots. And then after this is on, we're going to go through with acetone and wipe away all this paint. Now, I know you're going to be thinking, why are we wasting our time putting this powder on now when we're going to end up wiping pretty much, not pretty much all, but a lot of it off. But what happens that when you're creating that geode look, as the paint wipes away the edges, it pulls some of this powder through the paint, and it gives it this really cool look, because it isn't, around here will be this really pretty pearl shimmer, but it'll just be inside a few parts of that geode where the paint is wiped away. That really looks good. So have this in here, and this is the paint that this is a part that is really work, y'all. This takes a bit. If you commit to spray painting, definitely giving this pointer out, if you commit to spray painting, getting that decal on and spray painting one day, you are definitely going to want to commit to wiping the paint off as well, doing this part. If you let that spray paint sit overnight, over weekend, however long, and you don't wipe it off, I'm telling you, you're going to be saying bad words. the paint just really sets, it gives the paint time to dry, and to really dry, and it is a pain in the butt to wipe off. This I did thin coats. I did it not that long ago, so although it's dry enough for me to still fresh enough for me to get to the part to touch it with the powder, it's not completely dry enough to where I'm gonna fight with it. So what I do for this is, it's okay if some of that is wiping off. That's kind of intentional, because it will go through, and you'll see. We have a plan. We'll see. You'll see. So we're gonna go through, and right now I'm just giving myself a line. I like to go close to the words, but not touching it. And then I'm gonna cut sideways some, and I'm gonna drop down. And I'm gonna keep repeating that. It's easy when you take your fingernail and you kind of give yourself a line, and then you can wipe around that line. Oh look, I was grabbing alcohol for that. Well look, I grabbed alcohol on accident, but acetone is what I meant, so this is really gonna come off easy now. There we go. All right, so I drop down there, and then I drop down here, and I kind of line where I want it to go based on my wording. So if I drop that too close right here, when I come to cut back up, I'm gonna get close to this S. So I'll go close, but make sure it stays super thin. And while I'm at it, I'll bring it back up so I know where that line is. Drop that down. And then that part, you see where the paint kind of didn't take to that bubble? I'll go around that, come up, drop it right here. And I want all this to come off. So give myself this guide. And then we're going to start dropping down on this top part. To wipe this off, I use baby wipes. I just open a pack. Please don't judge me. This started because I have a child. My husband bought a ton of wipes from Sam's, and after some point we were like, we're never going to use these wipes, and I kept fighting with different rags, and I wasn't liking the result I was getting when I was doing geodes. So I was like, what else could I use? And I grabbed a baby wipe one time, and it was so easy. So now that's what I use. I've said it before in a video, and I'll tell you guys again. I promise if there's ever a baby wipe shortage, I will stop using them. I'll find something else that you can wipe your kid's butt. But as of right now, I can't quite explain how much use you can get out of one baby wipe. So this is what I use. I feel like the really good part of this design is the glitter and the geode, so I want to take off a good bit of paint around that. All right, so now we'll take this and we'll start extending our lines. The easiest way to do this is to get your guide and then wipe sideways, and then improve that line. I had to do about 4 of these yesterday, and it was after my paint was sitting for a few days. Oh my goodness, it took forever. Ugh, I was like getting in such a bad mood. It's a lot of work, man. When it sits, it's a lot of work. And I've tried doing this stuff with gloves on, and the the acetone just eats through the gloves, so it's not like you could even have any gloves on to get this done. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this as, I know I had 2 separate ones. I'm going to combine this. And I'm going to make sure it goes down to a point, but it's going to have to go pointy pretty quick, because that's going to be an aggressive spot to not hit that S. There we go. And then we'll pull this up and down right there. We're going to go mainly up right here because we don't want to hit that H. Give me a bit more right here. Make that wider. Okay. I know it looks funky. Just give it a minute. Give it a minute. We're going to finish it all off. So now we're just going through and need a little something. All right, so then I'm going to get my guide for the bottom. What I like to do is I like to come up pretty quick. I'll start by this part so I know where I want it to work around the decal. Oops. I usually sit on a chair and have this bracing on my leg, like on my knee. it's a lot easier, but I was trying to figure out how to video that for you guys. And it felt like it looked awkward. Didn't think you need to be seeing that position. So we're doing it like this. Gonna keep wiping it close, kind of go around, play off the decal, like have it kind of blend into what you want, where you want the decal to be. Just don't get too close to your letters right now, because our next step of really cleaning everything up with alcohol is going to stretch out these lines even more. All right, so for here, we'll go up. We're gonna go up fairly high right here, since that drops, it doesn't drop that much. We'll go up high here, and that will give me a chance to bring it down in time to not hit the S. So we'll go here, we'll drop it again right here. Drop it all the way down, take all this off. Wipe that off. And then we're going to work on this part. We're going to bring this up a lot. We're going to go up, or we're going to go up in stages. That way we have that really up and down movement. Man, it's hard doing it from this angle. Let's see if I can do this. Probably not. All right, so let's go up right here. And just keep dipping it in the acetone. I don't want that to touch there, so that's about as far as we'll go on that side of it. We'll bring this one up higher. And then connect. I'm getting pretty close to that P where that drops down in her name, so just be careful, because if you tap too close to that, you're gonna get, like, the P will blend in. If that does happen, you can take it outside, hit it with a little more spray paint, and then touch it up with some more powder, and it can be played off. It won't look as clean. It's possible. You'll just have to work on playing that off a little more. All right, then I want this to come down. All right, I don't know if you can see where it gets close and then it kind of gives me a bump. I'm getting rid of that. My hands get so nasty from this. They end up getting all full of paint at some part, and it is just about embarrassing. Okay, so we have that wiped out. I'm gonna take this out. A lot of the times I like to leave it pretty, pretty close to the bottom, but since I'm kind of rolling it on the table, I'm having the issue where it's taking it up right there, which is fine, because that's where my line is from where we trimmed it with the cup edging tool. So it's not that big of a deal. We'll just clean it. We'll get that wiped off. And what we'll do, since that is kind of that way, is we'll give it a big missing spot right here. And we'll play off the same shape that this is. So if you can see, now is when you start to see where the mica that we put on, that powder, is starting to kind of get wiped away in sections. But we're going to take some alcohol and rub it all the way through to blend it back down into the paint. And it really looks pretty like that. I feel like this looks weird. Let's see if I can drop that in. Bring that up. And that one has to be thicker. I don't like the thin one. Just like I said, with this design, I feel like a big part of the design is seeing that glitter kind of peek through everywhere. So I really like for it to really stand out. And what I usually do at this point when I'm wiping away is that if I have a big chunk that's missing here, I'll match it up here. So we're gonna take away a lot of this. We'll see if we can just wipe it away without touching where that pearl is right there. If you let your paint sit for too long and this process is super, super difficult, you can grab a magic eraser and some acetone. It'll make it easier. Just be very careful if you're doing that, because that magic eraser, to some extent, is almost like a fine, ultra fine sandpaper, and you will end up scuffing up your epoxy, and the paint will get kind of caught, not quite caught in the grooves because it's really fine, but you'll be able to see like a fuzziness, like a haze to it. So be careful with the acetone on there if you're using a magic eraser. I haven't had an issue with using acetone giving me any problems with my paint, but I'm also pretty careful with how long I'm doing this. If I just let this sit on here, then I would certainly have an issue. All right, so now we're going in, widening that line again, making sure it's where I want it. I want that bigger. And don't worry about the mess that it looks like right now. That's going to get cleaned up. And then this part is struggling. So let's take a little off here. Drop it down. Then widen it. It's safer to widen this with alcohol than with acetone if you're close to the letters, because the alcohol will wipe the paint away, but not as aggressively as the acetone. So if you feel like you're a little too close, instead of acetone, just use the alcohol for this part. I feel pretty comfortable that I have more room, so I'm going to stick with this. All right, now I'm going to make sure, let me get an alcohol rag real quick and see if I can just clean up enough to give me a better edge, but not at all touching that P. And what I'm doing is I'm using my fingernail to kind of wipe it away in a cleaner line to make sure that stays. All right, so right here definitely has to be something. Back in with acetone. And I'm going to take off the bottom because, like I said, with it rolling around on here, it's left that a little more rough than I would like. So we're going to play it off. If spray paint isn't your thing, you can definitely do a dirty pour. That looks really cool. You could definitely do a dirty pour over this, and baby wipes without acetone or alcohol will wipe it off. Just regular baby wipes, not put in the dryer first, just with the regular goop on it. It'll wipe it off a lot easier and a lot more gentle for your hands than this harsh acetone. So if you're sensitive, you can definitely do that. I decided to go spray paint this route just because I didn't want to wait for the you know, the full dirty pour to dry. And besides that, I have a few of these that I do, and it's just easier to knock it out with spray paint. I'm gonna drop down right here because I want to see more of this. Turn my rag again. I mean, look, we pretty much did this whole cup with one acetone baby wipe. And like I said, I just open the pack, I take out all the baby wipes, I stick them in the dryer, and then I just stash them in a used up tissue box. All right, so we have the acetone part done. We're gonna take our alcohol and put the acetone away, like move it out of the way so you don't accidentally pump into that, because if you do for this step, you're gonna really not like yourself. So I'm putting a generous amount of alcohol on here, and I'm starting on the mica section, and I'm wiping that first. That way it kind of softens it and it pulls it into where some of that paint, because some of the paint that we wiped off, it's still going to be a little, how do I say this? Like a little fresh on the edges, a little sticky. So wiping this off right now, this close to removing the paint, you'll help that mica kind of settle back into some of those spots. And make sure you do all the little grooves of it. All right, so to give you an idea of what it's going to look like, we're going to put this one aside because we don't want to keep using the dirty rag at this point. Now is when we kind of want to start to be careful. You grab more alcohol, and now we're cleaning up these edges. Try to keep it just inside these edges for this part. You don't want to go too much. If you have a spot, let me see if I can find one. If you have a spot where the paint is like wiped sideways, right here. Right here, you see how it's like scratchy? Ooh, and how I made it more scratchy? Just up and down a little bit, and it'll give you a bit better line. Can you see that? Like it cleaned it up. So just go gentle around those edges, and it'll refine them just a bit. The other thing that this does is that the powder that we just drug around, it's going to kind of settle it back off the edges. So wipe that through here. This is definitely a step you want to do before you go in with your epoxy, because it will clean up the alcohol, clean up the paint that's sitting on the parts that we wiped off. If I were to go epoxy right now without cleaning this up, it would look so funky. So take the minute to really get a clean rag, keep flipping it to drier sections and going again, because you don't want to spread this paint. Like our whole point right here is to clean up what we want this to look like. We are going to give this another wipe in some of these lines just before we put epoxy on it, just in case our fingerprints kind of dirtied it up in spots. Okay. Make sure that's clean. So many steps to this design, but I've really started to realize that the devil is in the detail. Like all this work, it makes it, like it all puts it together so beautifully. That goes weird. I need to go up. All right. I have these spots around the edge. I'm going to get my cup edging tool one last time after this next coat of epoxy and clean this up and really make sure it's a crisp line, because your paint will kind of settle in there if you didn't bring that second layer of epoxy down too far. So wipe through there, make sure that's clean to where I'm not going to have any issues. And then we're going to pull these decals. And this is my least favorite part. You just know how careful you have to be. I have my little weeding pen that I got from Nola's, Mr. Nola Glitter, that is. Game changer. I saw somebody make one of these, not I saw, but I was watching a tutorial and someone said they made one with just a mechanical pencil and a needle, which is interesting. It sounds super easy, but I'm telling you guys, very horrible of me. I'm the type to just go buy it instead of having to fight with something. My husband hates me for that, I'm sure, but I don't know, I just not completely crafty. I'd rather just get the easy parts done, give me more time to work on the good parts. All right, so here's one of the things when you're pulling this, is that for some of these parts, the if you have like a thin piece in there and your paint went on too thick, when you go to pull it, you have the risk of pulling off the inside of the H, like that little, you know, spot right there, or the inside of any letter. One of the easier things to make sure that doesn't happen is just to rock back and forth, and it will break it off a lot easier than really having to fight. There's times that I went to go pull it and I, like, the whole inside part of the D just came out too quick. So what I did, it was actually still tacky enough to just press it back onto the cup. So I did that. And then when I was done all this and I was sure that everything was completely clean, I didn't have any streaks through like my geode part, I went outside and hit it with clear spray paint just to make sure it stayed in place. So we're gonna go through. Seriously, the part that makes it, but the part that I just find so annoying. Just because of the paint on my fingers and then the sticky decal coming up. Oh, it's a nasty mess. And y'all, I'll go ahead and apologize now. My fingernails are rough. Like, my fingers are rough from this. Some people, I mean, you watch their tutorials and their nails are so pretty and they're, I don't know, they just look so clean and put together. And I'm like, I promise that is not dirt under my nails or food. I promise. It's like whatever spray paint I used last. All right, get this. See how it all is just starting to tie in? I love it. Oh, look, I took my weeding pen too close just now. I went on too much of an angle and I scuffed it right there. Not really much I can do to fix that. Not that would be worth it. Trying to fix that would give me a bigger mess than just having that little part. So we're gonna leave it. It's handmade with a lot of effort and curse words. Just be careful when you're moving this part that your hand doesn't slip and scuff up the paint more. And look, guys, this paper, this is what I mean by saying, like, look, no sticky residue. Like, none of that is sticky. It's great. But don't go do that to your, don't go touching your letters, because if you have sticky paint on your fingers, you're going to get in there. All right. I try to make these decals as large as possible to go on the cup where you can still read it from one point, just so that weeding is a lot easier. You would think it would be easy to pick off a letter in one big pull, but man, the times it doesn't happen. Okay, so here's something for you guys. This part right here, when I was weeding it, the A split, but when I laid it down, I just laid it really close to like almost overlapping so that the paint wouldn't go through, and it totally worked. I forgot to tell you guys that, sorry. All right, let me get this off my hands. Get some alcohol to help. All right. And go again. For this decal, I will list where I got it. I found it on Etsy, but all it said was, we don't hide the crazy, we parade it. And I really wanted it to say down the street, so I added down the street. I don't know, it sounds a little more fun. So I just moved, it already came with the arrow. I just adjusted the arrow and added it. Added street, down the street actually. And I don't know what font I used to add that either. I will, I'll try to find the font. If you want, I will see if I convert this back into an SVG and quickly learn how to get it out of design space. And then if you want this exact SVG, just message me and I'll get it to you, or comment. I don't know, something. I wonder if I can post a photo in the comment section, just have it really clean. I'll try that. I'll try posting a photo in the comment section, like a super clean photo, and see if you guys can use that. If you can't, just message me and I'll figure out a way to get it to you. And I'm still trying to figure this stuff out, so just please, patience and grace. I'm trying. I'm kind of happy to be doing a few tutorials. I've started getting to a point where, like I said before, I do this full time and I was just kind of running out of steam. Like I needed a change. So this is definitely giving me a change and getting me a little more interested in doing some of these again. I mean, it's not so routine, so I definitely don't mind. If there's any other designs of mine that you want to see, let me know. Let me know in the comment section, and I will, what did I put on this? I think that's alcohol. Let me know in the comment section and I will get it done. So what I'm doing right here is, you can see, maybe you can see where that paint wasn't so clean. Two options with this. You can take, the safer option would be to take just a knife and just scoot the paint out the way. So just take it, slide it over, get your clean spot. Then make sure you have alcohol. Do not grab that accident. Make sure you have just a little bit of alcohol and use that to kind of soften up that line and clean it up a little more. So I'll go through real quick and see where else. This A had it. So same thing there. We're gonna move the paint out the way, clean it up with alcohol. It's perfect. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I have that spot where I hit. That's just funk. So the part where we wiped all the mica, I did that at that point because if you were to wipe it right now, you're gonna have that mica travel into these letters and all this peekaboo, and it'll just get cloudy. It won't look as clean. So that's why we do that early. So make sure all that's cleared up. Flip it over and do her name. See if I can get this off in one big pull. Nope. Sure can't. Like I said, this font, I'll try to figure out where I got it from and I'll list that as well. I'll link it. If for some reason my links don't work, please let me know. Still trying to figure that out. I'm definitely willing to give you all the information I have. Just gotta learn how to do it first. So, a little time. Ooh. All right, the inside of that P is super tiny. Got it. Tedious, guys. Like I said, the design really pays off, but it is a lot. Yay! Okay, there we go. Got that off. We will get our last coat of epoxy on this, you'll see how that will shine up. It's crazy. It's crazy the way that all just takes on color. So we'll get to that and then we're done. All right, final coats of epoxy. You can really see in this step how much it just brightens up. It gives that shimmer throughout the whole design. I like it a lot better than just white spray paint. It just gives it something extra that I think makes it really special. So we're getting this on here. After this, what I'll do, and I'm not gonna video the rest, just because for sake of keeping this timely, tomorrow, just because I have a lot today, and then hopefully my kids have baseball, man. I need this weather to clear up. So what I'll do is I will let this cure in maybe 3 hours or so, depending on how much more work I have to get done. I'll come over here in a few hours, check on it. And once it's set to where I can sand it and mess with it, usually 3 hours is my safe zone for that. I'll take it over to my kitchen sink and I will make sure my edges around the top are cleaned. I'll scrape it around with a knife if I have to, and some acetone and a magic eraser. If you get any spray paint inside your cup, just use the magic eraser and some acetone and it will clean right up, no issues. So we'll do that, make sure our rim and our bottom is super clean, give us a pretty line, and that's it. And get out the piece of blue glitter. I don't even know, we didn't even use blue. I didn't even touch blue today. Is that purple? Yes. Goodness. All right. And right here, I usually don't do final coats right here. I do it at the other end where I don't bring my glitter, but this is where I had room to film, so this is what we're doing. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you like this. Hope you can get your own good creations out of it. Change up the wording, do something different. I would love to see what you guys do, so please tag me in it to show me something. I don't know, I'm sure I'll see it in one of the groups if you post it, but it's a super fun design. Definitely good for any occasion, any saying, any glitters. It's just perfect. So hope you like this. Please subscribe. Let me know if y'all have any questions. And I hope I can get another one of these done for you guys. Uh-oh, another piece of blue. Where is this blue coming from? All right, okay. I'm gonna take care of that. Hope you guys have a great day, have a great weekend, and I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments, please.